Welcome to my Xmas History lecture. Good morning, afternoon. My name is Kelly Neuendorf, and today I'm talking to you about a poem from a famous Australian poet. The poem I have chosen is called Ghosts, Places, Stories, Questions. The poet who wrote this is named Vincent Buckley. He was born in 1925 with an Irish background and died in 1988. Vincent is classified as a modern poet, which is an amalgamation of the first and second periods which produces literature that's both distinctive and mature. Out of some of the poems that I have read of Vincent's, his best would have to be the collection out of Golden Builders and Other Poems. I have chosen a poem out of this collection. Ghosts, Places, Stories, Questions. In this poem, Vincent has brought back people, places, and stories from the past to help him understand the questions he is asking. The poem reads, Ghosts, Places, Stories, Questions. The new life I demand of my bones, light and darkness of the hardening mind. Beneath such questioning, I cling to the notion of padding. Troilus keeps his pale eyes even in the bronze green thickets of summer 1965. They are living, even in our way of walking. I sometimes think they look at me in the street. There's a man who came back from hell, with no beaches and no hope of heaven, or with a touch of scholarship, quantum mutatis abilo, discourteous, abrupt, with staring eyes, hardly the same man. Myths certainly, but also matters of sheer observation. Life is a history of absences and unprepared returns. A cowlier cannot darken the shallow eyes. And what is at them a place, each watching his neighbour's bones, disassembling the death they had to pass through. The Spartans thought, before they took their spears and pressed their bodies to the brief defile, and the combing of the hair soothed their hands, but what rested the spirits, the 300 picked men of the middle year, with living sons, who oiled their bodies for the battle as for the games. There's surely a revelation in those bodies, and the wind carried the whisperings to the watching hills, as the Persians came forward to their dead. Where's the pride in losing, so predictably and so completely? These have no relevance for me. Why then do I think of them whenever I tune my muscles for the strain of death? Yes, and ghosts, how close to the marrow can they come? At night I feel them like sweat running under the skin. Chilled with myth, to I half expect from my friends, and at its coming of the hair of their heads stood up, to cry out, what is that inside you, that makes your shadow flick on the grass, heedless and demanding presence? I will endure you, but you shall not be my gods. A cowlier cannot give you flesh, heaven cannot make you more than spies of hell. And what friends are they who sweet mastered, as the thunder fanned in burning bush, will walk more cautiously, saying, oh, that is the God you belong to, that's the woman. I still must touch my forehead to the ground, because its radiance is in my body. Gods are vulgar, so are journeys. Ulysses sails to find specks of blood in the newly woven pattern. Orpheus goes down to find mortality a blessing. I walk beside these fires because I must, in pain and trembling, sometimes thanking God for what they give me, the few poems out of the holy spaces of my life. The first stanza, you see the word Troilus. Troilus is a group of people in Greek mythology led by King Priam, who led them into the war of Thermopylae. The poet uses Troilus to say that ghosts too are myths just as Greek mythology. By the poet walking down the street and stating that he thinks the ghosts are looking at him, he makes you think that he must be intrigued by these ghosts. Also, the only number is written in the first stanza, 1965. Looking up this date, it has a lot about the Vietnam War. The poet has used this date as the Vietnam War was classified as the Thermopylae War of Greek mythology. In the second stanza, the poet questions the famous Battle of Thermopylae. And what is that Thermopylae? What was there to make everyone watching each other die? Of the 7,000 Greek force, only 1,400 had made the legendary last standing. Of those 1,400 were 300 Spartans. The poet is wondering why the Spartans weren't there, if they knew what would happen to them, even though they pressed their bodies to the brink of fire. The third stanza, the poet still questions why they kept going on. Even as the dead bodies lay on the ground, there was surely a revelation in the whisperings that were carried away into the watching hills of Thermopylae. The secret the Spartans knew, they wouldn't win. The fourth stanza, the poet says that even though the Spartans may or may not have had pride for losing, he still wonders why he keeps thinking of them when he is questioning death, or scared of death himself. Why doesn't the poet have that pride in losing life? The ghosts come back in stanza 5. The poet uses imagery to tell you that he can feel the presence of the ghosts, even though the poet does not want them around. The ghosts are not his God, and he will not dedicate his life to them no matter what they think of him. Even though God created the unspoiled wilderness, the poet knows God will not give them the flesh and shadow they wish for. And the poet also knows that the ghosts are evil and are made from the spires of hell. The last stanza, the poet is saying that the gods of today and the gods of the past are vulgar, normal, the same as the journeys they all took. There are two more Greek characters stated in this last stanza, Ulysses and Orpheus. The poet uses these two Greek characters to say more to his point that gods and journeys are vulgar. At the end of this stanza, the poet writes that even though the ghosts that he doesn't want around him, they are still inspiring him. Now we have gone through this poem, you can now see where Vincent got the name of his poem. Ghosts, places, and stories from Greek mythology characters are used to help him understand these questions he needed to answer. While reading this poem, I have only noticed one poetic technique, imagery. Yes, and ghosts, how close to the marrow can they come? At night I feel them like sweat running under the skin, chill with mist to a heart's expect my friends. These few lines are poetic technique, imagery. The poet uses imagery to create the feeling of being scared and alone. So this poem has only one poetic technique, it is actually a blank verse and a free verse, which means that this poem doesn't have any pattern for meter or rhyme. I think the poet wanted a blank and free verse because the poet just wanted to write what he was thinking in a simple way, but it's also hard to explain when other readers read the poem. This poem is about what the author is thinking. He uses Greek mythology and the Vietnam War as well as ghosts. Vincent has written many other poems about war, but not about ghosts. This concludes my lecture. Thank you for listening.